Explorer Alex Walker stood resilient under the harsh ultraviolet glare of the twin suns on the planet Zephira. His exposed skin miraculously resisted the intense radiation that should have incinerated him in seconds. Approaching in the protective shell of the armored transport, Zephyr, Commander Rian stared in disbelief at the live video feed of this impossible human casually standing on the planet's lethally irradiated surface without any protective equipment. Every child on Zephyrus learned that Zephyrus sunlight burned, blistered, and killed within moments. Yet, impossibly, this human endured, mocking the fundamental truths underpinning Zephyrian civilization merely by existing. Rian clenched his jaw, fighting a nauseating mixture of awe, fear, and instinctive revulsion as the human looked directly at the transport's external cameras and waved, his calm, friendly smile enraging Rian. His continued survival was an insult to generations of Zephyrians who had suffered and died under Zephyr's unforgiving light. Defensively, his mind insisted this human had to be an anomaly, a suicidally reckless individual. His species couldn't all possess this unnatural resistance. They couldn't threaten Zephyrian supremacy like this. Squads 1 and 2 converge on the alien ship's location. Rian snapped over the transport's comms, the rise in anger in his voice surprising him. Capture the trespasser alive if possible. If it resists, you're authorized to terminate it with extreme prejudice. As the soldiers hurried to obey, Rian stared at the human's absurdly fragile-looking ship, forcibly suppressing the primal dread rising in his chest. This Alex Walker and his disturbing immunity to the sun could not be allowed to leave Zephira. Not until the Zephyrian sovereignty understood the full extent of humanity's solar radiation tolerance and how to counter it. The future of his species might very well depend on it. In the sterile confines of the Zephyrian interrogation chamber, Alex sat shackled to a chair under the piercing gaze of Commander Rian. The human's calm demeanor only served to intensify Rian's growing unease. Your species has colonized dozens of worlds like Zephira? Rian asked, his voice tight with barely contained dread. Planets with punishing solar radiation levels? Alex nodded, meeting Rian's eyes unflinchingly. We've thrived on worlds where other species perish. It's not just me. All humans can withstand extreme UV radiation. Rian's mind raced with the implications. The Zephyrians' own plans for expansion suddenly seemed laughably fragile if they had to compete with humans for these otherwise uninhabitable planets. He needed to report this development to the sovereignty immediately. Within cycles, the Zephyrian leadership convened an emergency meeting. Their holographic forms flickered with barely concealed agitation as they discussed the implications of humanity's unique adaptation. They tasked Rian with studying Alex extensively, determined to unravel the biological mechanisms behind human radiation resistance and gauge if it could be replicated or countered. Alex found himself subjected to a relentless barrage of tests and experiments, prodded and sampled by Zephyrian scientists who seemed equal parts fascinated and unnerved by his body's resilience. They marveled at the tissue and genetic samples that revealed humanity's secret, highly efficient cellular DNA repair mechanisms, and UV filtering compounds that allowed them to withstand Zephyr's merciless sun. As the grueling procedures dragged on, Rian begrudgingly started to respect Alex's stoic toughness and resourceful nature. The human endured the poking and scanning with a composed dignity that spoke volumes about his strength of character. Delving into the secrets of Alex's equipment, Zephyrian technicians found that while human technology lagged behind in most areas, it showed remarkable ingenuity in adapting to harsh stellar environments. Each discovery painted a clearer picture of a species uniquely suited to expand across the galaxy's most inhospitable worlds. Between experiments, Alex gleaned insights into Zephyrian biology and society from overheard conversations and his own keen observations. He realized their isolationist culture stemmed from an extreme vulnerability to Zephyr's sun, which confined them to shelters and hidden cities. Their civilization had turned inward, focusing on self-preservation and viewing other species as dire threats to their precarious existence. As understanding dawned, Alex recognized the sheer magnitude of what his arrival represented for the Zephyrians. It was an unprecedented opportunity to expand beyond their planetary prison, but also a profound upheaval of their long-held beliefs about their place in the universe. Rian wrestled with similarly conflicting emotions. Despite his initial hostility, he found himself increasingly drawn to Alex's quiet confidence and the tantalizing possibilities his species embodied. Yet those same possibilities posed daunting challenges to Zephirian dominance, forcing Rian to grapple with a future where humans might eclipse his own kind. The tests were nearing their conclusion when disaster struck. A massive solar flare erupted from Zephyr's turbulent surface, bathing the planet in a surge of deadly radiation. The Zephirian outposts, usually safe within their protective domes, suffered catastrophic damage as the flare overwhelmed their defenses. Alarms blared through the research facility as panicked Zephyrians scrambled to evacuate. In the chaos, Alex realized that this crisis would force him and Rian into an uneasy alliance, two adversaries now bound by the need to survive an impending apocalypse. As the solar storm raged outside, the human and the Zephirian commander faced each other, their differences momentarily forgotten in the face of a shared catastrophe. The fate of both their species and the future of Zephira itself hung in the balance. The facility shuddered as the solar flare struck, alarms blaring, drowning out the panicked cries of Zephyrians scrambling for safety. Alex stumbled as the floor bucked beneath him, steadying himself against a wall. Through reinforced windows, he watched in horror as the capital city's protective dome cracked and shattered under the onslaught of deadly radiation. Rian burst into the room, his eyes wide with terror. Our shelters are collapsing. Thousands are trapped, and we can't reach them. Alex's mind raced, processing the dire situation. Your people can't survive out there, can they? Rian shook his head, desperation etched on his face. The radiation levels, it's certain death for any Zephirian. He hesitated, then met Alex's gaze. But you could survive it. Understanding dawned on Alex. Without a word, he nodded, already moving toward the door. Rian quickly outfitted him with Zephirian tech, a communications device, portable life support units, and tools for cutting through debris. Be careful, Rian said, his voice thick with conflicting emotions. And thank you. Alex stepped out into the inferno. The air shimmered with heat, and buildings warped and melted around him. He pushed forward, guided by Rian's voice in his ear, toward the first collapsed shelter. Life signs detected, Rian reported. 30 meters ahead, under the fallen archway. Alex dug through the rubble, ignoring the searing pain as his hands blistered and healed repeatedly. He uncovered a group of terrified Zephyrians, their eyes wide with disbelief at the sight of him. It's okay, he assured them, helping them to their feet. I'm here to help. Hour after hour, Alex battled exhaustion and the relentless assault of Zephyr's sun. He freed trapped Zephyrians from crumbling buildings, repaired failing life support systems, and carried injured aliens to safety. In the command center, Rian watched in awe as the humans' heroic efforts unfolded on monitors. He saved another group, an aide reported. That's over 100 now. Rian nodded, a lump forming in his throat. Direct him to the eastern quarter next. My family is there. Alex pressed on, his muscles screaming in protest. He found Rian's family huddled in a partially collapsed home, the children whimpering in fear. With gentle words and sure hands, he led them to safety, earning tearful thanks from Rian over the calm. As the solar flare finally began to subside, Alex stumbled back to the command center, exhausted but triumphant. He was met with a sea of grateful Zephirian faces. Rian stepped forward, his voice filled with emotion. You've saved us all. Not just those you rescued, but our entire people. We see now how wrong we were about other species, about humans. In the days that followed, as Zephira began to heal, Alex found himself addressing the Zephirian High Council. He spoke of cooperation, of the strength found in diversity, and of a future where Zephyrians and humans could face the challenges of the cosmos together. Rian stood beside him, nodding in agreement. We pledge to forge new bonds with humanity, he declared. Our isolation ends today. As Alex prepared his ship for the journey home, his heart swelled with pride. He had not only saved lives, but had opened the door to a new era of interspecies cooperation. Just as he was running final pre-flight checks, a priority message flashed on his console. Alex's blood ran cold as he read the warning from Earth. A group of human extremists had learned of the Zephyrians' vulnerability and were planning to exploit it. Alex's hands clenched into fists. The fragile peace he had worked so hard to build now hung by a thread, threatened by the very people he had come to represent. Alex's hands trembled as he read the urgent message flashing on his console, his stomach churning. A group of human militants had discovered the Zephyrians' vulnerability to solar radiation and planned to exploit it. He sprinted through the corridors of the Zephirian command center, his footsteps echoing off the metallic walls. Bursting into the council chamber, he found Rian and the other counselors deep in discussion. "Commander Rian," Alex called, urgency in his voice. "We have a serious problem." Rian turned, his expression shifting from curiosity to concern as Alex explained the threat. "They want to force your people to surrender, to give up Zephira and its resources," Alex finished, his voice tight with anger and frustration. Rian's face hardened. "We cannot allow that to happen. If these militants succeed, they could doom us all." "I need your help," Alex said. "We need to show them that humans and Zephyrians can work together, that we won't let fear and hatred dictate our future." The counselors murmured amongst themselves, their expressions a mix of fear and determination. Finally, Rian nodded. "We stand with you, Alex. We must act quickly." Over the next hours, a plan took shape. Using Alex's knowledge of human technology and the Zephyrians' advanced surveillance systems, they tracked the militant group's movements. They prepared a joint task force of humans and Zephyrians, united in their mission to prevent a catastrophe. As dawn broke over Zephira, Alex and Rian led the task force to intercept the militants. They moved swiftly and silently, utilizing both human and Zephirian strengths. The tension was palpable as they approached the militants' encampment, concealed within the rocky terrain of Zephira's southern hemisphere. Alex peered through binoculars, spotting the militants setting up a powerful solar emitter designed to overwhelm the Zephyrians' protective domes. "We need to disable that emitter before it activates," he whispered. Rian nodded, signaling his team to move into position. Alex and a group of human operatives circled around the flank, aiming to take out the guards without alerting the entire camp. The plan unfolded with precision. Zephirian and human operatives moved as one, their mutual trust and cooperation shining through. They overpowered the guards and disabled the emitter just moments before it could activate. The militants, realizing their plan had failed, attempted to flee but were quickly surrounded. As the dust settled, Alex and Rian stood side by side, surveying the scene. The militants were secured and the threat neutralized. Alex felt a profound sense of relief and gratitude. They had not only averted disaster but also proved that their alliance was strong and capable. In the days that followed, Alex and Rian worked together to ensure that the cooperation between their species continued to grow. They established joint research teams, cultural exchange programs, and diplomatic channels to foster understanding and unity. Alex became a symbol of hope and cooperation, his actions on Zephira paving the way for a brighter future. As he prepared to return to Earth, he knew that the challenges ahead were significant, but with allies like Rian and the Zephyrians, they could face whatever came next. And so, with a heart full of hope and determination, Alex Walker embarked on his journey home, ready to continue building bridges and forging new paths for humanity and their newfound allies among the stars. As Alex Walker prepared to depart from Zephira, a sense of accomplishment mingled with a sober awareness of the challenges ahead. The alliance forged between humans and Zephyrians on the brink of disaster now stood as a beacon of hope and cooperation in the galaxy. Yet, the threat posed by extremist factions on Earth lingered like a shadow over their hard-won peace. In the days leading up to his departure, Alex worked tirelessly with Commander Rian and the Zephirian High Council to strengthen their alliance. Joint patrols were established to ensure the security of Zephirian outposts, while cultural exchanges flourished, fostering deeper understanding between their species. The Zephyrians, once isolated by their vulnerability to solar radiation, now embraced their new role as partners in the galactic community. Alex found himself caught between his duties as an ambassador and his longing for home. He missed the familiar sights and sounds of Earth, the bustling cities, the natural landscapes, and most of all, the warmth of human connection. Yet, he knew that his mission was far from over. The extremists who had threatened Zephira still posed a danger, and their actions could unravel everything he and Rian had worked so hard to achieve. On the day of his departure, Alex stood on the platform of the Zephirian spaceport, surrounded by a crowd of Zephyrians who had come to bid him farewell. Their expressions ranged from gratitude to sadness, reflecting the bonds that had formed during his time on their planet. Rian stood beside him, his expression unreadable as he clasped Alex's hand in a firm grip. "You've done more for us than we could have ever imagined, Alex," Rian said, his voice tinged with emotion. "You've shown us what true courage and compassion look like. We will never forget what you've done for our people." Alex nodded, his own emotions threatening to overwhelm him. "Thank you, Rian. Your people have taught me more than I could have ever hoped to learn. I only hope that our alliance continues to grow stronger in the years to come." As the countdown to departure began, Alex exchanged final farewells with Rian and the council members. He boarded his ship, the familiar hum of its engines a comforting presence as he settled into the pilot's seat. As the thrusters ignited and the ship lifted off from the surface of Zephira, Alex couldn't help but glance back at the planet below, a world that had forever changed him. The journey back to Earth was filled with reflection and anticipation. Alex knew that he carried the hopes of both humans and Zephyrians with him, a responsibility that weighed heavily on his shoulders. He communicated regularly with Rian and the Council, sharing updates on his progress and the continued efforts to root out extremist threats. Upon his return to Earth, Alex was greeted with a mixture of relief and admiration. His mission to Zephira had made headlines across the solar system, sparking debates about humanity's place in the galaxy and the importance of interstellar diplomacy. Governments and organizations reached out to him, eager to learn from his experiences and build upon the alliance with the Zephyrians. However, Alex remained vigilant. He knew that the threat posed by extremists was not easily extinguished. Reports of clandestine operations and propaganda campaigns surfaced with alarming frequency, highlighting the ongoing struggle to maintain peace and understanding among humans. Alex worked tirelessly to counter these efforts, rallying support from governments and civic leaders who shared his vision of a unified future. Months turned into years as Alex continued his work as an ambassador and advocate for interspecies cooperation. The alliance with the Zephyrians flourished, paving the way for similar partnerships with other species who sought to benefit from humanity's resilience and ingenuity. Throughout it all, Alex never forgot the lessons he had learned on Zephira. The strength found in diversity, the power of compassion, and the importance of standing up against fear and prejudice. He became a symbol of hope for those who believed in a future where humanity and other species could coexist peacefully and thrive together. As he looked out at the stars from the window of his office, Alex felt a sense of pride and fulfillment. The journey had been arduous, filled with challenges and sacrifices, but it had also been profoundly rewarding. He knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but with allies like Rian and the Zephyrians by his side, he was confident that they could overcome any obstacle. And so, Alex Walker continued his work, forging ahead with determination and optimism. He knew that the galaxy was vast and unpredictable, but as long as there were those willing to fight for peace and understanding, he believed that anything was possible. With each passing day, Alex's vision of a united cosmos grew closer to reality, guided by the enduring spirit of cooperation and friendship that had begun on the irradiated surface of Zephira. Years passed since Alex Walker's return from Zephira, and the galaxy continued to evolve. The alliance forged between humans and Zephyrians had become a cornerstone of interstellar diplomacy, inspiring other species to seek cooperation rather than conflict. Alex had become a respected figure, not just within Earth's political circles but across numerous planets and space stations where his story resonated. Despite the successes, challenges persisted. Extremist factions on Earth remained a potent threat, their influence spreading through clandestine networks and misinformation campaigns. Alex and his allies worked tirelessly to counter these efforts, employing diplomacy, intelligence gathering, and sometimes covert operations to protect the fragile peace they had fought so hard to achieve. One particular incident tested their resolve. Reports surfaced of a coordinated attack on a Zephirian outpost by radical human factions. Lives were lost, and trust between species wavered. Alex immediately mobilized resources, working alongside Commander Rian and Zephyrian leaders to investigate the attack and ensure justice was served. It was a tense period, marked by heated debates and diplomatic maneuvering, but through perseverance and mutual understanding, they managed to identify the perpetrators and bring them to justice under interstellar law. The incident served as a wake-up call for many, both on Earth and beyond. Governments tightened security measures, and public sentiment shifted towards greater cooperation with alien allies. Alex seized this momentum, using it to advocate for stronger interstellar alliances and initiatives aimed at fostering cultural exchange and mutual understanding. During this time, Alex also faced personal challenges. The years spent away from Earth had taken a toll on his relationships and his own sense of belonging. He found solace in the friendships he had formed with Zephyrians and other species, yet a part of him longed for the familiar comforts of home. Despite these internal conflicts, Alex remained dedicated to his mission, drawing strength from the knowledge that his work was making a difference in the lives of countless beings across the galaxy. As the years rolled on, Alex's efforts bore fruit. The alliance with the Zephyrians deepened, paving the way for collaboration on scientific research, trade agreements, and joint defense initiatives. Other species, inspired by their example, sought to emulate their cooperative model, leading to a gradual reduction in interstellar tensions and an era of unprecedented prosperity. Yet, challenges persisted on Earth. Extremist ideologies continued to find new footholds, fueled by fear and misinformation. Alex and his allies knew that their work was far from over, that the struggle for peace and understanding was ongoing and required constant vigilance. They redoubled their efforts, reaching out to disenfranchised communities, engaging in dialogue with skeptical leaders, and promoting education as a means of countering ignorance and prejudice. Through it all, Alex remained a steadfast advocate for unity and cooperation. His experiences on Zephira had shaped his worldview, instilling in him a deep appreciation for the diversity of life in the cosmos and a fierce determination to protect it. He became a symbol of hope and resilience, a beacon for those who believed in a future where humanity and other species could coexist in harmony. As he looked out at the stars from his office window, Alex reflected on the journey that had brought him to this moment. The path had been challenging and often perilous, but it had also been filled with moments of joy, camaraderie, and discovery. He knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but he was confident that as long as there were individuals willing to fight for what was right, the galaxy would continue to move towards a brighter future. And so, Alex Walker continued his work, guided by the lessons learned on Zephira and fueled by the belief that through cooperation and understanding, humanity could reach new heights. With each passing day, his resolve strengthened, his vision of a united cosmos growing clearer and more attainable. And as the stars twinkled in the vast expanse of space, Alex knew that he was exactly where he was meant to be: a champion for peace, a guardian of hope, and a pioneer in the ongoing quest for interstellar harmony.